My wife scoffed at me and said, "You can't provide the life I deserve? Then step aside, because I'll find someone wealthy enough to treat me the way I should have been treated all along." Emily and I had been married for 7 years. People used to call us the couple that made sense. She was outgoing, ambitious, loved pretty things and expensive atmospheres. I was more grounded, steady job, practical goals, nothing too flashy. Opposites attract, right? At least that's what I used to believe. For a long time we balanced each other well, or so I thought. But little by little she began changing. She'd raise an eyebrow every time I said we should save money. She'd sigh loudly whenever I suggested staying home instead of going to another overpriced rooftop lounge. "You just don't understand what I need," she said once. At the time, I shrugged it off. We all have stressful days. But that wasn't stress. It was a warning. It started with small things. Purse, a necklace, a weekend trip to clear her head. I bought what I could. But Emily's taste wasn't normal. She didn't want a bag. She wanted a luxury brand that cost more than our mortgage payment. She didn't want a necklace. She wanted diamonds big enough to reflect the moon. My salary was good, comfortable, but not that comfortable. One night, she showed me an online shopping cart worth nearly $3,000. I laughed. She didn't. "Why don't you ever take anything seriously?" she snapped. "Because seriously, Emily, we can't afford this." She stared at me with this expression I had never seen before. Contempt. Like I personally insulted her existence. But I still tried to reason. I still tried to love her through it. I still believed marriage meant teamwork. I didn't know she stopped believing that a long time earlier. It happened on a Thursday evening. I remember the weather because the rain was hitting the windows so hard it felt like a warning from the universe. Emily came home with a magazine advertisement folded inside her purse. An ad for a luxury car brand. A car worth more than my annual salary. She slapped the picture on the table like she was presenting evidence in court. "I want this," she said. I blinked. "Emily, this is a $150,000 car." "So?" She folded her arms. "So we can't afford that." She scoffed. An actual scoff. A sound so sharp it cut. And then she said it. She leaned forward, eyes full of disgust, and hissed, "You can't provide the life I deserve? Then step aside, because I'll find someone wealthy enough to treat me the way I should have been treated all along." Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. My ears rang. My chest tightened. I stared at the woman I vowed to love forever, and realized she was a stranger. I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I just asked one question. "Have you already found someone?" She didn't answer, but her expression did. Her eyes widened for a moment. Then she rolled them. That's when everything clicked. The late nights. The secretive texts. The sudden interest in work events. The new clothes she said she bought on sale. There wasn't a sale. There was someone else. My stomach twisted. "How long?" I whispered. She shrugged. A shrug. Like I asked how long she'd been waiting for the bus. "A few months," she said. "But honestly, he understands me. He gives me things you never could. Things. Not love. Not respect. Not loyalty. Things." "You're leaving me for money?" I asked. "No," she snapped, then paused. "Not just money." But we both knew that was a lie. She didn't pack her things that night. She didn't have to. Most of them were gifts from him anyway. Over the next few days, I walked around the house like I was living someone else's life. Every room felt haunted. Every memory felt poisoned. I realized the woman I married slowly transformed into someone who valued status more than kindness, luxury more than honesty, and wealth more than the man who loved her. Friends told me to be angry. Family told me to move on. But I didn't feel anger at first. I felt grief. A heavy, suffocating grief for a future that would never happen. Took months. Months to heal. Months to stop replaying her words in my head. Eventually, the fog lifted. I started focusing on myself. Taking care of things I had neglected. Rediscovering old passions. Building new friendships. Finding a piece of peace in everyday routines. And slowly, I began to see the truth. Losing her wasn't losing anything. It was finally gaining freedom from someone who saw me as a wallet, not a partner. 6 months later, Emily reached out. Of course she did. Her wealthy soulmate wasn't as wealthy as she thought. He simply spent money recklessly to impress her. Turns out he had more debt than actual cash. She wanted to talk. She wanted to apologize. She wanted to start over. But most importantly, she wanted stability. My stability. She said she missed my kindness. She said she missed my loyalty. She said she realized real love matters more than money. But love died the night she told me to step aside. So I told her the truth. I hope you find the life you think you deserve, but I'm not the man who's going to give it to you anymore. She stared at me, stunned. She expected me to be waiting. She expected me to be broken. She expected me to take her back like nothing happened. But people who betray you never expect you to rise without them. I walked away, not with bitterness, not with anger, just peace. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen in life is someone revealing who they truly are early enough for you to escape. Emily wanted luxury. She wanted wealth. She wanted someone to give her everything she dreamed of, except the one thing she took for granted. A good man who loved her without price tags. And now she can chase whatever fantasy she wants. But she'll never find that again. Not because I was perfect, but because I was genuine. And that's something money can't buy. After Emily stormed out of my life for the second time, this time not with triumph, but with embarrassment and desperation, I honestly thought our paths would never cross again. But life has a strange sense of humor. A few weeks later, I received an invitation to a charity gala organized by my company. I wasn't planning on going. Events like that always felt awkward to me. Too many suits, too many fake smiles, too much pretending. But my boss insisted. So I went. I didn't expect anything special. I definitely didn't expect her. The hall was decorated with crystal chandeliers, gold linens, and waiters who floated around like ghosts carrying trays of sparkling wine. I grabbed a drink, found a quiet corner, and tried to blend in. Then I heard a familiar laugh. A laugh I used to know better than my own heartbeat. Emily. She walked in on the arm of the same wealthy man she'd left me for. Only he didn't look wealthy at all anymore. His suit was wrinkled, his shoes worn down, his expression tense, almost panicked. He looked like a man trying to pretend everything was fine while drowning in bills and bad decisions. Emily, on the other hand, tried desperately to look as though her world hadn't collapsed. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, jewelry too bright to be real. But her eyes were tired, restless, searching every corner of the room for someone who might still admire her. And then she saw me. First came surprise, then disbelief, then something I didn't expect, regret so raw it almost looked like pain. She walked toward me, leaving her boyfriend behind mid-conversation. "Hey," she said softly, as if we were old friends. "You look good." I nodded politely. "Thanks." She shifted awkwardly, glancing around as if she expected me to fill the silence. I didn't. I just waited. Finally, she exhaled sharply. "Can we talk?" she asked. "About what?" My voice was calm, steady. Very unlike the man I was when she left. She hesitated. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About what happened." I raised an eyebrow. "Emily, there is no us to think about anymore." She flinched at that. I saw her pride crack like a thin sheet of ice. "I know I said horrible things," she whispered. "I wasn't myself. I was just stressed, confused. I didn't mean half of what I said." But she did. She meant every word. The difference was that now those words were haunting her instead of me. Before I could respond, her boyfriend, the one she ran off with, stumbled over. He glared at her. "Emily, we need to go. Now." She shook her head. "Just give me a second." "No," he snapped. "We need to talk about the credit card situation." His voice wasn't quiet. People heard. They turned. Emily's face went pale. He grabbed her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to show one thing clearly. The facade was over. The gentleman act was dead. "You maxed out another card?" he hissed. Are you trying to ruin me? My stomach twisted, not out of jealousy, but out of the bitter irony. She left me for luxury and walked straight into debt. She yanked her hand away. Stop it. Not here. He didn't. He kept talking, loudly, about money she begged for, trips she demanded, bills she pretended didn't exist. And the room watched. Emily finally broke. She turned to me, tears filling her eyes. Not soft, remorseful tears, but the tears of someone whose ego was shattered in front of witnesses. Please, she whispered. Can we go somewhere and talk alone? I need help. Help. That was the real reason she approached me. Not love. Not guilt. Not reconciliation. Just help. I took a deep breath. And for the first time since our marriage ended, I truly saw her. Not as the woman I loved, not as the villain of my story, but as a person who never learned how to stand on her own without leaning on someone else's wallet. No, Emily, I said quietly. I can't help you. Not anymore. Her lips trembled. Why? You're not really just walking away again, are you? I didn't walk away before, I said. You pushed me. She stared at me, speechless. I placed my empty glass on the table, nodded to her politely, and left her standing there, caught between the man she ruined and the man who ruined her. As I walked out into the cool night air, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. Real, weightless freedom. Her voice echoed faintly behind me as security intervened in her argument with her boyfriend. But none of it mattered anymore. I wasn't her past. I wasn't her backup plan. I wasn't her safety net. And I certainly wasn't her future. My life was moving forward. Without her toxicity. Without her demands. Without the chains of her expectations. And for the first time in years, I was finally becoming the version of myself I lost while trying to love someone who only loved what I could buy. When I walked out of that gala, I expected the night to just end. I thought I'd go home, make a cup of tea, sit on the couch, maybe watch something mindless, and forget the whole disaster. But life had other plans. As I reached the parking lot, a woman approached me. I didn't notice her at first because she moved quietly, almost shyly, like she didn't want to intrude. It wasn't until she said my name that I turned. Hey, it's been a long time. It was Lena, a colleague who used to work in my department years ago. We'd always gotten along well, shared the same humor, and talked easily. But timing never worked. Back then, I was married, and she respected that fully. She looked different now, more confident, more composed, carrying herself like someone who'd finally figured out her place in the world. You okay? She asked gently. That gala looked intense. I laughed softly. You saw that. Everyone saw that, she admitted. But I just wanted to make sure you were all right. And for the first time that night, I felt warmth instead of embarrassment. We started talking, leaning against my car, the streetlights bathing everything in soft yellow. Conversation flowed effortlessly. She didn't ask invasive questions. She didn't dig for drama. She just listened, really listened. It had been a long time since someone did that. At one point she said, some people stay stuck in the past because they're afraid of what the future might offer. I raised an eyebrow. Are you talking about me or her? She smiled. Maybe both. We ended up talking for nearly an hour. About work, life, disappointments, unexpected turns, and all the things that shape people when they aren't paying attention. And the entire time, for the first time since my marriage fell apart, I didn't feel broken. I felt seen. Eventually we said goodnight, but before leaving, she paused. If you ever want to talk, or just get coffee, I'd really like that. I nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I actually meant the words when I said, yeah, I'd like that too. When I got home, my phone buzzed. A message. Not from Lena. From Emily. I'm sorry. Please just give me 5 minutes. I need to explain. I stared at the message without responding, because there was nothing left to explain. Over the next few days, she kept trying. Calls, texts, long paragraphs filled with excuses, mixed with sudden emotional outbursts. First she apologized. Then she got angry. Then she begged. Then she tried to guilt-trip me. But I didn't reply. Not once. Because I had finally understood a truth I should have known a long time ago. Some people love the idea of you, but never the reality of who you truly are. And then, something unexpected happened. My boss called me into his office. I thought it was about the gala, maybe an awkward follow-up conversation about the scene Emily caused. But instead he said, "I've been reviewing your work over the past year. You've been carrying more weight than half the department. And after seeing how you handled last night with professionalism, I know you're ready." Ready for what? Promotion. A big one. A salary increase. A leadership role. A chance to finally step into the potential I kept suppressing because I spent years trying to keep the wrong person happy. Felt surreal. Walking out of that office, I realized something else. While I had been healing, growing, rebuilding myself, Emily had been unraveling. Life doesn't punish people out of cruelty. It simply reveals the consequences of their choices. Days passed. Then weeks. I met up with Lena for coffee. What was supposed to be 20 minutes turned into 2 hours. 2 hours turned into dinner. Dinner turned into easy laughter and long conversations. She didn't want anything from me. No gifts, no money, no status. She just enjoyed the person I was. Something I hadn't felt in years. At one point she looked at me with a soft smile and said, "You know, you talk differently now. Brighter. Lighter. Like you finally exhaled after holding your breath too long." I didn't even know what to say, because she was right. My past didn't own me anymore. One evening, just as I started embracing my new life fully, Emily showed up at my door. Her makeup was smudged, hair messy, clothes wrinkled. Not glamorous, not perfect, not the woman who once sneered at my lack of wealth. She looked small, lost, exhausted. I just want to talk," she said, out of breath. "I know," I replied gently, "but I don't." Her eyes filled with tears. "I loved you, you know." "Maybe you did," I said softly, "but you loved comfort more." She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Not coldly, just firmly. "I'm not angry," I told her. "I'm not bitter. I just finally understand that we were never meant for the same kind of life." She shook her head slowly, as if refusing to accept the truth. "You changed." "Yes," I said. "I did, and I'm not going back." I closed the door, not harshly, but with finality, and in that quiet moment, the past finally ended. The next morning, I met with Lena again. She smiled as soon as she saw me. Not because of what I could provide, not because of what I could buy, but because she was genuinely happy I was there. For the first time in years, I felt like the future wasn't something to fear. It was something I was finally ready to walk into. And I did, with peace behind me and something real ahead. After that night, when I closed the door on Emily for good, life began settling into a quiet, strangely comfortable rhythm. Not perfect, not extraordinary, just peaceful. And after everything I'd been through, peace felt like a luxury I had never been able to afford. But life has a habit of testing people right when they think the storm has finally passed. Because the past doesn't fade easily. It waits, it circles, and when you least expect it, it knocks again. This time it came in the form of a message. Not from Emily, not from her former boyfriend, not from anyone I knew. It came from a private investigator. I thought it was spam at first, some scam email pretending to be official. But then I saw the name of the sender, a real agency in the city, one I recognized because my company had hired them before for fraud cases. The message was brief. "We need to speak with you regarding an ongoing investigation involving individuals you may have had contact with. Please confirm if you can meet." My stomach dropped. I didn't owe anyone money. I hadn't done anything wrong. So why me? I called the number, expecting some clarification. What I didn't expect was the name the investigator mentioned. Emily's boyfriend. The same man she left me for. The same man who embarrassed her at the gala. The man who had once seemed like her golden ticket and turned out to be anything but. Apparently, He was under investigation for financial misconduct. Big misconduct. Fake investment schemes. Debt laundering. Fraudulent loans. And Emily had been listed as a possible participant. Not because she committed anything herself, but because she had spent his money, traveled with him, benefited from purchases made with funds under investigation. Now they needed to know if she ever used any of my financial information, or if I had any documents she might have taken. I felt the blood drain from my face. Her luxury addiction wasn't just toxic. It was dangerous. I agreed to the meeting, not for her, not out of fear, but because I wanted everything clean and transparent. I had rebuilt my life once, and I wasn't going to let anyone drag me back into chaos. But something unexpected happened during that meeting. The investigator asked casually, "Are you two still in contact?" I shook my head. "No, not anymore." He nodded slowly. "That's good," he said, "because she might try to come to you next." People in her situation often return to the safest person they once had. And I knew instantly that was true. Emily would come back. Not for love, not for regret, but for safety. I drove home that evening with a strange tightness in my chest. Not sadness, not anger, just disbelief at how far everything had fallen apart after she walked away chasing money. But life, in its strange balance, wasn't only sending warnings. It was also quietly opening new doors. Because a few days later, I met with Lena again. What was supposed to be a simple coffee turned into a walk through the city. Then dinner. Then sitting on a bench under warm streetlights talking like we'd known each other for years. She had this way of speaking that made everything feel grounded. Real. She didn't judge my past. She didn't rush my healing. She didn't treat me like someone broken. She treated me like someone worth knowing. At one point, she looked at me with a quiet smile and said, "You know, sometimes life removes people not as punishment, but as protection." I swallowed hard, because deep down I knew she was right, and for the first time since my marriage collapsed, I felt something shift inside me. Not a spark, not fireworks, nothing dramatic, just warmth. A slow, steady warmth of someone returning to life. Days went by, then weeks. Work flourished. My confidence returned. My home no longer felt empty, but the investigator's warning stuck in my mind. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the city turned gold, I heard a soft knock on my door. A knock I recognized instantly. A knock from the past approaching one last time. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't speak. The knock came again, a little louder, a little more desperate, because Emily had finally realized the only safe place she had left was the one she destroyed. And now she wanted back in. I stood there, silently, knowing that whatever happened next would define the rest of my life. The knock came again, louder this time, followed by a shaky breath on the other side of the door. "Please, I know you're home." Emily's voice trembled. "I just want to talk. I don't have anyone else." Her words weren't angry or manipulative anymore. They were hollow, exhausted, terrified, a version of her I had never seen before. For a moment, I stood still, staring at the door, feeling the echo of the man I used to be. The one who always rushed to fix her problems, who sacrificed his own peace to calm her storms. But I wasn't that man anymore. I slowly opened the door, only halfway. Emily stood there, mascara streaked down her cheeks, hair tangled, jacket slipping from her shoulders. Nothing like the glamorous woman who once demanded the world from me. This was someone stripped of pride, stripped of illusions, someone who'd finally hit the bottom. "Can I come in?" she whispered. I kept my hand on the door. "No." She swallowed hard, a shaky breath escaping. "They're saying I might be involved in his mess. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I believe you," I said softly, "but that doesn't change anything." Her eyes filled again. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought life was supposed to be perfect. And when it wasn't, I blamed you." "You chased a fantasy," I replied. "You thought the grass was greener. And it wasn't." Her voice cracked. "It was poison." Silence hung between us, thick and heavy. I'm scared, she whispered. I have no one. My family won't talk to me. He took everything. Every account is frozen. I can't even pay my rent. There it was, the truth she'd been carrying. Please, just let me stay here for a little while, just until things calm down. I promise I'll find my own place. I just need help. Help. The word hit me deeper than it should have, because for years, I had been her safety net, her fallback option, her emotional shield. But letting her in now would drag me straight back into the chaos I fought so hard to escape. And I wouldn't survive that twice. I shook my head gently. I'm sorry, Emily, but you can't stay here. Her voice rose in panic. So you're really going to turn your back on me? After everything we went through? I looked her straight in the eyes. You turned your back on us long before I ever did. Her face fell. Completely. I continued, but softly, not with cruelty, with the honesty she never allowed herself to face. You didn't choose him over me. You chose what he could give you. And when that collapsed, you came back because you wanted safety. Not love. Not accountability. Just safety. She stared at me, stunned by the truth she could no longer deny. And I can't be that for you anymore, I finished. I won't lose myself again. She broke then, a quiet, painful collapse. She covered her face, shoulders shaking, tears dripping onto the welcome mat. For a moment I felt sympathy, but not attachment, not longing, not regret, just the human sadness of watching someone suffer from the consequences they built with their own hands. After a minute, she took a shaky breath and looked up. Is this really goodbye? She whispered. Yes, I said gently, but I hope you find your way, truly. She nodded weakly, wiped her face, and took a step back, then another, and without another word, she turned and walked away down the dimly lit hallway. Slowly, quietly, like someone finally accepting that a door they kept pushing on would never open again. I closed my door, and it didn't feel like loss. Felt like closure, a soft, final ending to a story that lasted far too long. Inside my home, the air felt lighter. My chest felt open. My future no longer haunted. A few moments later, my phone buzzed. A simple message from Lena. Hope your evening's okay. Are you free tomorrow? I'd like to see you. I smiled. A real smile, not the forced ones I used to wear during my marriage, because the past was finally behind me, and what waited ahead was something honest, something calm, something real. I typed back, yes, I'd like that. And with that, the story truly ended. Not with revenge, not with bitterness, not with regret, but with peace, and the quiet promise of a new beginning.